Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be looking at Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh, great book.
Yeah. I'm excited for this one. And I think the basic mission of this deep dive is we're going to try to look at the incredible journey that took us from insignificant apes to the rulers of the planet. We'll talk about the implications of that. Harari really goes through the whole history of humankind, which is such a broad topic.
Yeah, it is ambitious.
But it's so fascinating. And yeah, I think one of the first things that struck me is that for most of human history, we really weren't the dominant force we are today.
Right.
You know, we were just another animal trying to survive. But then something remarkable happened around 70,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's the cognitive revolution.
The cognitive revolution. Okay, so tell me about that.
Well, this is really where history begins.
Yeah.
You know, it separates itself from the slow grind of biological evolution. And it's not about physical changes, really. It's a sudden leap in cognitive abilities, specifically with the development of language.
So it wasn't our tools or our physique that gave us the edge. It was our ability to communicate.
Precisely.
Okay.
But not just basic communication like you see in other animals. Sapiens developed an ability to talk about things that don't physically exist.
I see what you mean. So this is where things like democracy...
Right, or human rights, or try explaining that to a chimpanzee.
Right. It doesn't...
Possible.
Yeah, those are all powerful concepts,
Right.
but they only exist because we collectively agree that they do.
Exactly.
So this ability to create and share these imagined realities through language, that's kind of what separates us.
It allowed for these unprecedented levels of cooperation. Suddenly, sapiens could organize themselves around shared myths, beliefs, ideas, and this bypassed the need for slow genetic evolution.
So like a software upgrade for the human brain.
Yeah, a pretty significant one.
Yeah.
And it allowed us to adapt and innovate at a pace never seen before in the natural world.
Right.
This ability to cooperate based on shared fictions is arguably what sets us apart from all other species.
Yeah.
And it laid the foundation for everything that followed, really.
That's giving me a whole new perspective on the power of stories and ideas.
Right.
But okay, before we had these empires and corporations and things like that, we were hunter-gatherers, right?
Right.
And I think that that's often romanticized as a sort of Garden of Eden time.
Right.
But Harari kind of paints a different picture, right?
He does, yeah. The archaeological and anthropological evidence suggests that it was much more complex and challenging than that.
Okay.
While we lack detailed written records, we can piece together a picture of small nomadic bands constantly on the move, searching for food, facing all sorts of dangers.
So not quite the idyllic paradise we often imagine.
No, not exactly. Life was tough.
Yeah.
And while some hunter-gatherer societies were relatively peaceful, evidence suggests varying levels of violence, even comparable to some periods in modern history.
Wow, that's unsettling.
Yeah.
It really challenges the notion that violence is a product of civilization.
Right. It's a reminder that humans have always had a capacity for both cooperation and conflict.
Yeah.
But even in these challenging circumstances, sapiens formed a remarkable partnership.
Okay.
One that predates even the development of agriculture.
Dogs.
Yes, dogs. Man's best friend.
Yeah, I mean...
Evidence shows domesticated dogs as far back as 15,000 years ago, perhaps even earlier.
Oh.
And they likely joined the human pack as hunting companions, protectors, and an early warning system. They really shaped our shared destiny.
It's amazing to think that this bond forged tens of thousands of years ago still kind of defines our relationship with dogs today.
It really is. It's a testament to the power of coevolution. Both species adapted to each other both physically and socially. Consider how dogs respond to human emotions.
Yeah.
And how we've selectively bred them for specific traits.
Ah.
It's a partnership that has profoundly shaped both species.
So we have these small bands of humans and dogs
Right.
roaming the landscape, reliant on their wits and skills to survive. But, I mean, there wasn't much interaction between groups then, was there?
Well, while they were more self-sufficient than modern societies, there is evidence of limited trade and social interactions, especially during times of scarcity or conflict. Think of it as the earliest forms of globalization.
So even back then, humans had a sense of connection beyond their immediate group.
Absolutely.
But their world was about to change dramatically with the advent of agriculture. And I think that's often hailed as like the dawn of civilization.
Right.
But Harari kind of challenges that assumption, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah.
While agriculture ultimately led to the societies we know today, it came with a significant trade-off.
Yeah.
Humans shifted from a diverse diet to a reliance on a few staple crops.
Right.
This made them more vulnerable to famine and disease.
Yeah.
Work became more demanding, and our lives became more sedentary.
So it was like a Faustian bargain. Did they even realize what they were doing?
It's unlikely that they consciously weighed the pros and cons. The archaeological evidence really suggests a gradual shift,
Okay.
a series of adaptations and innovations that
Yeah.
ultimately led to a new way of life.
And that new way of life had profound consequences. Population explosions, the development of villages, specialized labor, the rise of social hierarchies. It's not quite the peaceful, egalitarian village life we often
Of
imagine.
it all. Exactly.
Yeah, the agricultural revolution set in motion a chain of events that would reshape human societies and our relationship with the planet.
Yeah.
But to manage these larger, more complex societies, humans needed something more than just crops and plows.
Right,
They
yeah.
needed stories.
Stories. Yes.
What do you mean?
Think about it. Cities and empires require a different kind of social glue.
Okay.
To manage large-scale cooperation, you need shared myths, beliefs, and narratives. Stories that explain who we are, why we're here, what our place is in the grand scheme of things.
It's fascinating how those ancient stories are so similar to the beliefs that we still hold dear today.
Exactly.
You know, believing in ancient gods is not that different from believing in modern institutions like corporations
Yeah.
or the concept of human rights.
Yeah. Very good point.
It's a shared story, a shared myth.
Yeah, and perhaps the most powerful story ever invented
Okay.
was the story of money.
Money.
A story. Think about it. Money is essentially a shared fiction.
Okay.
It's not the physical coins or bills themselves, but the value we assign to them.
Yeah.
Before standardized currency cultures use everything from shells and cattle to cigarettes as currency.
Wow.
It's all a mental revolution that allows us to exchange goods and services, efficiently fostering trust between strangers.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing when you think about it that way. But like any powerful invention, it has its downsides, right?
Yeah, absolutely. While it facilitates trade and cooperation, it can also lead to a more impersonal, market-driven world, where relationships are often defined by transactions rather than shared values or community ties.
So we've gone from nomadic bands to settled farmers, built cities and empires, all driven by this remarkable ability to create and believe in shared fictions. But then there's another major turning point in our story, a revolution fueled by a new kind of curiosity,
The scientific
the
revolution.
scientific revolution.
Yeah. This marks a profound shift in mindset. Before the scientific revolution, knowledge was primarily based on tradition, religious dogma,
Right.
and the wisdom of the ancients.
Yeah, it was all about accepting what you were told,
Exactly.
not questioning the status quo.
Exactly. But with the scientific revolution, we started demanding evidence, seeking new knowledge through observation and experimentation. Think Copernicus proving that the Earth revolves around the sun, directly challenging the long-held belief in an Earth-centric universe.
Yeah, that must have been a shock to the system.
Oh, absolutely.
Trading in the old dusty scrolls for a shiny new telescope. And speaking of exploration, European empires played a big role in fueling scientific research, didn't they?
They did. The drive to explore and conquer new territories
Yeah.
led to advancements in fields like cartography, linguistics, botany, even medicine. It's a complex and often uncomfortable truth that science and empire were deeply intertwined during this period.
So I'm starting to see how science, with its emphasis on empirical evidence and its connection to empire, laid the foundation for the modern world. But where does this leave us today? What does all this mean for the future of humanity?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And Harari argues that we're on the cusp of another major turning point, one driven by our growing ability to manipulate life itself. We're no longer just reshaping the world around us.
We're reshaping ourselves.
Exactly. Bioengineering, artificial intelligence, cyborgs, these are no longer the stuff of science fiction.
Right.
They're very real possibilities. And they raise profound questions about what it means to be human.
And I have a feeling this is where things are about to get even more interesting.
Oh, you have no idea.
Okay, let's dive into this brave new world you've been hinting at. We're talking about engineering life on a fundamental level, right? This isn't just selective breeding anymore like those fat chickens Harari talks about.
Right. We're talking designer genes, custom-made organisms. It's like we're taking over evolution itself, pushing it in directions WE determine.
Wow.
Harari offers some really captivating examples. Scientists have already engineered pigs with healthier fat, just by tweaking their genes. And there's serious talk about using genetic technology to bring back extinct species, like mammoths.
Hold on, are we talking Jurassic Park here? Could we
Yeah.
really bring back dinosaurs?
Maybe not dinosaurs, but mammoths are definitely on the table.
Wow.
And that raises a whole host of ethical dilemmas. Should we bring back extinct species? What would be the ecological impact? Do we have the right to play God in this way?
Yeah, I can see how that would open up a Pandora's box of questions. And it's not just about resurrecting the past. We're also talking about engineering the future, creating entirely new forms of life.
Yeah.
What does that even look like? Is this all just hypothetical, or are there real-world examples of this happening right now?
Well, think about the potential for creating organisms that can clean up environmental pollution or produce new sources of energy. Those are just two examples of how bioengineering could be used to address some of humanity's biggest challenges. But you're right, there's also the potential for creating entirely new life forms, unlike anything we've seen before.
Yeah.
It's both exciting and a little bit unnerving.
Especially when you consider the implications for human enhancement. Harari asks some really thought-provoking questions. Should we create superhumans? What would that mean for equality? Would we even recognize ourselves anymore?
Right. Those are questions we need to grapple with now before these technologies become widely available.
Yeah.
If we have the ability to enhance our intelligence, our physical abilities, even our lifespans, how will that change our understanding of what it means to be human?
It's like something straight out of a science fiction novel, but it's happening right now.
It is.
And it's not just about genetics. Harari also talks about the rise of cyborgs, part human, part machine. This is where my brain really starts to melt.
He describes this incredible experiment where monkeys learn to control bionic limbs with their thoughts.
Wow.
Imagine a monkey with a robotic arm that it can move just by thinking about it.
Okay. I'm officially mind blown. So we're talking about genetically engineered humans, cyborgs with mind-controlled limbs. It all feels a bit overwhelming. What does this all mean for the future of humanity? Are we headed towards some utopian future where we've conquered disease and aging? Or is this the beginning of a dystopian nightmare when machines take over?
Harari doesn't offer any easy answers.
Right.
Instead, he leaves us with a truly thought-provoking question. He suggests that these advancements, as exciting and terrifying as they may be, challenge our most fundamental ideas about what it means to be human, about freedom, about happiness.
So where do we go from here? How do we navigate this uncharted territory? Are we even capable of making conscious choices about our future, or are we just along for the ride?
That's the challenge, isn't it? We need to become more conscious creators of our own destiny. The choices we make today, the questions we ask, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and where we're going, it all matters.
Okay, let's take a deep breath and try to process all of this. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We started with the cognitive revolution, that spark of language and imagination that set humans apart from all other animals. We then explored the challenges and surprising complexities of hunter-gatherer life, debunking the myth of a peaceful Garden of Eden. And we saw how the agricultural revolution, while bringing about settled societies and ultimately leading to our modern world, also came with its own set of downsides and unintended consequences.
Yeah, and we trace the rise of empires, the invention of money, and the power of shared stories to shape our beliefs and behaviors. And we saw how the scientific revolution, fueled by both curiosity and the ambitions of empire, transformed our understanding of the world and paved the way for the technological advancements we see today.
Which brings us to this incredible and perhaps slightly terrifying moment in human history where we are on the verge of reshaping not just our environment, but ourselves.
Indeed, the possibilities are as vast as they are daunting.
We're talking designer babies, cyborg limbs, and the potential for artificial intelligence so advanced that it challenges our very notion of what it means to be human. It's both exhilarating and unsettling. It's hard to know whether to be excited or scared.
Both responses are valid. This is new territory, and we need to approach it with both a sense of wonder and a healthy dose of caution. The future is far from certain. We can't predict exactly how these technologies will unfold or what their ultimate impact will be.
So what are we supposed to do with all this information, all these possibilities, all these unknowns? Is there anything we can do to steer this ship in the right direction?
I believe there is. The key is to engage with these issues, to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of these technologies. We need to cultivate a sense of responsibility for the future of our species.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a renewed sense of urgency. It's not enough to just sit back and observe. We need to be active participants in shaping the future.
Exactly. And one of the most pressing issues we need to address is the rise of artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, AI. The realm of thinking machines, self-learning algorithms, and the potential for a future where humans are no longer the only intelligent beings on the planet. It's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying.
Right. It's a topic that often evokes strong emotions. Some people see AI as the key to solving humanity's biggest problems, while others fear it could lead to our downfall.
Yeah, I can see both sides. On the one hand, AI has the potential to automate tedious tasks, cure diseases, and even help us combat climate change. But on the other hand, it's easy to imagine scenarios where AI becomes so powerful that it surpasses human intelligence and control.
Right. Harari acknowledges those concerns.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that we need to be very careful about how we develop and deploy these technologies. We need to ensure that AI is aligned with human values and goals.
But how do we do that? How do we control something that might eventually become smarter than us? It seems like we're walking a tightrope here.
It's a delicate balance. It's not about stopping technological progress, but about guiding it in a way that benefits humanity as a whole. It's about ensuring that these powerful tools are used for good, not for harm.
That sounds good in theory, but how do we actually put it into practice? Are there any concrete steps it can take to mitigate the risks?
Well, one thing we can do is invest in research that focuses on the ethical implications of AI. We need to develop frameworks for responsible AI development, ensuring that these systems are transparent, accountable, and aligned with human values.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values and intentions behind it. We need to be very clear about what we want AI to do and how we want it to behave.
Exactly. We need to think carefully about the goals we set for these systems, the data we feed them, and the safeguards we put in place.
It sounds like we need a whole new set of ethical guidelines, ones that can keep pace with the rapid advancements in AI and other emerging technologies.
Right. We need to have serious conversations about the boundaries we want to set and the safeguards we need to put in place. We can't just assume that technology will automatically solve our problems. We need to be proactive and intentional about shaping the future we want.
This is where things get really tricky. How do we even define ethics in a world where the lines between human and machine are blurring? What does it mean for a machine to be ethical?
Yeah, those are some of the biggest questions facing humanity today. And there are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. We can't afford to ignore these questions. The stakes are simply too high.
It feels like we're standing at a crossroads in human history. The choices we make in the next few decades will have profound consequences for generations to come.
That's why it's so crucial to engage with these issues, to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of these technologies. We need to foster a culture of critical thinking, of open dialogue, of responsible innovation. The future is not something that happens to us. It's something we create together.
It's empowering to think that we have a role to play in shaping the future, but it's also a bit daunting. Where do we even begin?
I think it starts with recognizing that we're not just passive observers of history. We're active participants in shaping the future. And the first step is to become aware of the forces at play, to understand the historical context that has brought us to this point.
Yeah, that's where Harari's book has been so helpful. It's given us a roadmap for understanding the big picture of human history, the key turning points that have led us to this moment. But it's also highlighted the fact that all this technological progress doesn't necessarily translate into happiness.
That's right. All these advancements, all this progress, all this power, does it actually make us happier? That's the big question that Harari grapples with in Sapiens. He challenges the assumption that progress automatically equals happiness.
So you're saying that despite our technological marvels and unprecedented levels of material comfort, we're not necessarily any happier than our ancestors.
That's what the research suggests. Harari argues that happiness is ultimately determined by our internal biochemistry, by the delicate balance of hormones and neurotransmitters in our brains.
So no matter how fancy our gadgets are or how luxurious our lifestyles, our brains are still wired for the same basic emotional responses that our ancestors experienced thousands of years ago.
That's the gist of it. Of course, external factors can influence our mood, but they don't fundamentally change our internal wiring.
So a medieval peasant who just built a mud hut might experience the same level of satisfaction as a modern CEO who just closed $1 billion deal.
It might sound counterintuitive, but yes.
So if happiness isn't about external achievements or material possessions, where do we find it? What's the secret to a fulfilling life in this rapidly changing world?
That's a great question. And it's one that Harari explores by delving into some fascinating philosophical and spiritual traditions. He explores Buddhism, for example, which emphasizes the impermanent nature of all things, including our own feelings and desires.
So rather than chasing after fleeting pleasures or clinging to material possessions, Buddhism suggests that true happiness comes from finding peace within ourselves, from accepting the present moment as it is.
Precisely. It's about detaching from the constant craving and striving that often drives our modern lives.
It sounds like a radical departure from the consumerist culture that's so dominant in our world today. We're
Yeah,
constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need to buy more, do more, be more. It's exhausting.
it is. And I think it's taking a toll on our collective well-being.
So how do we break free from this cycle? How do we find true happiness in a world that's constantly telling us we're not enough?
That's a complex question, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But I think it starts with awareness. We need to become more mindful of the messages we're consuming and the values we're internalizing.
And maybe we need to cultivate a sense of gratitude for what we already have rather than constantly striving for something more.
Exactly. And we need to learn to find joy in the simple things in life. Spending time with loved ones, connecting with nature, pursuing creative endeavors. These are the things that truly nourish our souls.
It sounds like we need to balance our outward advancements with some serious inward reflection. Otherwise, we risk creating a world that's technologically sophisticated but spiritually empty.
I agree, and I think that's one of the most important messages of Sapiens. It's not just a history book. It's a call to action, an invitation to become more conscious creators of our own destiny.
And on that note, I think we've covered enough ground for one day. We've journeyed through the entirety of human history, explored the frontiers of science and technology, and even pondered the meaning of happiness. I need a moment to process all of this.
I think we all do. Let's take a deep breath and reflect on everything we've discussed.
Okay, I'm ready to dive back in. We've been talking about the need for a new kind of humanism, one that can keep pace with these mind-boggling advancements, but it's all a bit abstract. Can you give me some concrete examples of how these trends are already playing out in the world today?
Well, let's consider something that's already transforming our lives. The Internet of Things, or IoT.
Okay.
It's the idea of connecting everyday objects to the Internet, allowing them to collect data and communicate with each other.
I've heard of the IoT, but I'm still a bit fuzzy on the details. Can you paint a picture for me? How would this actually work in real life?
Imagine a smart refrigerator that tracks your grocery inventory and automatically orders replacements when you're running low. Or a city where traffic lights adjust in real time based on traffic flow, reducing congestion and accidents.
So it's like embedding intelligence into the very fabric of our lives.
It is.
My house is ordering groceries for me. My city is directing traffic. It's a bit like living in a sci-fi movie.
It is, and the potential applications are endless. Think about healthcare. Wearable sensors that monitor your vital signs and alert your doctor if there's a problem.
Okay.
Or manufacturing. Factories where robots and humans work side by side, optimizing efficiency and safety.
It all sounds incredibly efficient and convenient, but part of me can't help but worry about the implications for privacy. I mean, if everything is connected and collecting data, who has access to that information?
That's a valid concern, and one we need to be very mindful of as these technologies evolve. We need to ensure that privacy is built into the very design of these systems, and that individuals have control over their own data.
It sounds like this technological revolution is creating a whole new set of challenges that we've never faced before. How do we even begin to address these ethical and societal dilemmas? Is there a playbook for this?
There's no easy playbook, but that's why it's so important to engage with these issues, to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks. We need to be proactive, not reactive.
So what's your take on all of this? Are you optimistic about the future, or are you worried that we're heading down a dangerous path? What keeps you up at night?
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
I think these technologies have the potential to solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, but only if we use them wisely. It's up to us to shape the future we want, to ensure that these advancements benefit all of humanity, not just a select few.
It's a lot of responsibility, isn't it?
It is.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads, and the choices we make today will determine the course of our future.
Exactly. And that's a powerful and humbling thought. We're not just passive passengers on this journey. We're active participants, and we have a responsibility to steer the ship in the right direction.
That's a great metaphor. But it's also a bit daunting. How do we even know which direction to go? How do we make wise choices when we're dealing with technologies that are so complex and rapidly evolving?
That's where critical thinking comes in.
Hmm.
We need to be willing to question our assumptions, to challenge the status quo, to consider multiple perspectives. We need to develop a deep understanding of these technologies, their potential benefits and risks.
It sounds like we need a new kind of literacy, a technological literacy that goes beyond just knowing how to use these tools.
Yes.
We need to understand how they work, how they're being used, and how they're shaping our world.
I completely agree.
Mm.
And that literacy needs to be coupled with a strong ethical framework, a set of values that can guide our decision-making in this rapidly changing landscape.
It's like we need to become more conscious creators, more intentional about the future we're building. It's not enough to just let technology happen to us. We need to be active participants in shaping it.
Precisely. And that brings us back to Harari's central argument in Sapiens.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds us that we have the power to shape our own destiny. The future is not predetermined. It's a vast canvas waiting for us to paint it.
So how do we pick up the brush? What can we do as individuals to make a difference?
I think it starts with education and engagement. We need to educate ourselves about these technologies, their potential benefits and risks. We need to engage in thoughtful conversations about the future we want to create. We need to demand that our leaders make wise decisions about how these technologies are developed and deployed.
It sounds like a call to action.
It is.
A reminder that we're not just passive observers of history, but active participants in shaping the future.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful and inspiring message. We have the power to create a future that is both technologically advanced and ethically sound, a future where all of humanity can thrive.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive into Sapiens has been a real eye-opener for me. I've learned so much about our past, our present, and the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. I'm feeling both inspired and a little bit overwhelmed, but mostly I'm feeling hopeful.
Hope is a powerful force, and I think it's warranted. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the collective wisdom to navigate the challenges ahead and create a future worthy of our species.
So what's the next step? Where do we go from here?
The journey continues. We encourage you to pick up a copy of Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens and explore these ideas further. It's a book that will challenge your assumptions, expand your horizons, and leave you with a renewed sense of wonder about the human story.
And don't stop there. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep engaging with the big questions about our future. The conversation is just getting started.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shaping the future.